कैश हर खुशी के लिए काफी है। Co-presented by Coin DCX, your gateway to crypto.
Hello and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Here are the day's top business stories. Bulls managed to maintain momentum on a volatile day of trade after starting the day in the red. Sensex recouped losses to stay above 60,000 amid continued buying by foreign investors. BSE market cap up to a record 280 trillion rupees. ICICI Bank shares at a record high of 886 rupees in trade today. Brokerages see the share rising still higher as the bank strengthens its balance sheet. Maruti drives in the all-new bigger Alto priced at 4 lakh rupees. Company hopes the new model will wean away customers from the micro SUV market. Telecom Minister Ashwini Vaishnav asked telecom companies to prepare for the launch of 5G services in the country. Says spectrum has been issued. First services expected later this month. It's bad news for those looking to get a US tourist visa. Embassy appointments not available before March 2024. Long waits for other countries as well, with Indians rushing for revenge tourism. It was a lackluster day of trade on Dalal Street. After starting the day in the red, markets were able to recover the day's losses but ended on a flat note. Sensex recouped all of its losses and managed to stay above 60,000. Nifty ending 21 points higher, shutting shop a few points shy of 18,000. Kotak Mahindra Bank was the top Nifty gainer today. L&T, Tata Consumer, Ultratech Cement, IndusInd Bank, some of the other blue chip gainers. However, the stocks that kept the indices under pressure during the day included Dr. Reddy's, UPL, Wipro, BPCL and Infosys. Meanwhile, amid continued buying by foreign investors, the market capitalization of companies listed on the BSE rose to a record 280.5 trillion. As telecom companies gear for the rollout of 5G services in India, the consumers are curious about the cost of data plans. Will 5G cost more than your 4G plans, or will Indians pay the same rate for 5G on existing plans? Sakshi Batra is here with all those details.
Well, that's right. The 5G era is here in India as spectrum auction and allocation is now done. The government has now asked the telecom companies to begin preparing for the 5G rollout soon. But the question on everyone's mind is, will 5G data plan become more expensive, or will Indians pay the same rate on 5G as on the existing plans but recharge more frequently as 5G uses up data much faster? So here's what we know so far. Let us first understand what we will in India need to pay for the 5G services vis-a-vis the rest of the world. So as per the Global Systems for Mobile Communications Association, or GSMA, which published a report in 2019, that report suggested that average cost for 1 GB of data on 4G is $17 compared to $13 for 5G network. Now let us look at what's the scenario in US first. Here, Verizon, the biggest telecom operator in US, only has unlimited plans currently, and the average monthly tariff here for 4G data is priced at $40, whereas for 5G, it is $58. In Switzerland, the telecom operator Sunrise offers 1 GB limited data for 4G at $35, while 5G data is priced at $55. Now, in some countries, the 5G plans are cheaper than the 4G, like in UK, where telecom operator EE offers 1 GB limited 5G data for $1.15, whereas 4G is available at $3. So similarly for South Korea, that provides 1 GB data of 4G for $7 and just $0.32 for 5G. And this is because the faster speed of 5G means more data is exhausted faster, which results in users buying more data packs, spending more money per month despite the lower rates. And here, experts say that 5G promises to deliver data speeds 100 times faster than 4G, and therefore one could really expect 1 GB of 5G data to be exhausted anywhere between 5 to 10 times quicker as compared to 4G. Now, as far as India is concerned, experts also point out that there could be two scenarios really playing out back home. First, where telcos charge a premium for 5G services. So there could be a tariff increase of anywhere between 20 to 30% for the Indian consumers wanting to migrate to 5G services. The second scenario can be reverting to the strategy when 4G was rolled out in India. So telcos had offered a standard pack for both 3G and 4G. Users were allowed to switch between the two networks as well through the settings on their smartphones. And this strategy worked very well as users ultimately shifted to 4G. Airtel CTO Randeep Sekhon, however, has indicated that the prices of Airtel 5G are expected to be on the same lines as the 4G prepaid plans. Vodafone Idea, on the other hand, believes that the prices should be higher for 5G than 4G, because the people will be getting the fastest ever network. Another question which most people have been asking now is that are Indians even willing to shift to 5G? Now, as per a recent survey of about 2,000 people in both urban and rural areas by Ookla, 89% of Indian smartphone users are already ready to upgrade to 5G. Almost half of the respondents, 48%, plan to upgrade to 5G as soon as the service is available in their area and would also consider switching telcos if necessary. Now, less than 2% of the respondents do not wish to upgrade to 5G as of now. But in all, as Prime Minister Modi, while addressing the nation in his Independence Day speech, said that this is India's decade and this could revolutionize the grassroots level with the rollout of 5G.
All right, thanks Sakshi for that. India's largest car maker, Maruti Suzuki, has launched the all-new Alto K10 at a price of nearly 4 lakhs. Since its debut in the Indian market in 2000, Maruti has sold over 43 lakh units of the Alto. First, let's take a closer look at the all-new car.
Well, Maruti Suzuki has launched its all-new Alto K10, and remember, Maruti has done away completely with its predecessor Alto with respect to the design, the all-new design and all-new freshen-up look. If you look at these lights, the honeycomb lights and all new refreshed looks with this all new air intake mesh gives you really a feeling of a smiling car. Coming on to the features, the aerodynamics have been designed quite well, completely departing from the previous designs. If I give you a quick peek into how the interiors look like, if I can ask my camera person to quickly go inside and give you a sneak peek view of to how the gear looks like, how the infotainment system looks like, the steering wheel looks like, the odometer looks like. So clearly all new freshen up design by Maruti Suzuki out here. If I can quickly give you a sneak peek towards its backside of the vehicle, the rear side of the vehicle has been kept extremely clean by Maruti Suzuki. The roundish circular and of course a little bit of squarish pattern has been kept aside for the rear. Remember, for 20 years, this vehicle has been a game changer for Maruti Suzuki because Alto has been a game changer for Maruti, and nearly 70% market share Maruti Suzuki enjoys with respect to the Alto. So clearly in times to come, this vehicle would be a game changer for Maruti Suzuki because remember, as far as the Alto and the hatchback segment goes, Maruti Suzuki will always be a leader as far as giving its competition, especially in the pricing, launched at about 3.99 lakh rupees.
In fact, Chetan also caught up with Shashank Srivastava, Senior ED at Maruti Suzuki, to talk about the new launch and outlook for festive season. Listen in.
Tell us about this car, sir. What envisioned you to bring this vehicle at this point of time? Was it because the festive season is coming up and you really want to rear up the consumers' interest and sentiments?
Actually, not really the festive season because, as you know, car design and development takes almost 3 to 4 years. So this would have been planned 4 years back. So not exactly for the festive season. Regarding the segment itself, this segment, by the way, is a very large segment. It's almost as big as the SUV segment. And Alto is the number, as you saw in the presentation, 16 consecutive years #1 car. It's now also last year it was number 4. But you must remember that the top 4 cars in the industry are still hatch. So the hatch segment is very large. It's about 11.5 lakh. So very large segment. Maruti Suzuki has a market share of almost 70% in that segment. So obviously we have a very big stakes in the segment. And I also believe from economic logic that it's very important to grow this segment because India is a very young demography. 65% of the people less than 30 years of age. which means that a lot of people will come into the workforce. They would require transportation. In India, public transport is not so great, so personal transport will always be required. It's only a question of how affordable you can make it. So in that sense, the entry hatch segment is a very important segment. That's why we introduced the new Alto here.
Two things in particular. Pricing has been kept very competitive in respect to the competition to this vehicle. I would like to ask you, at 3.99 lakhs, do you think the consumer sentiment for hatchback segment will again start to rise? Because I know there are people who still go for the hatchback segment. Not everyone can afford an SUV, but yes, do you think with this launch, do you expect to garner a good amount of market share for the entry-level hatchback segment?
Yes, so definitely. So as I mentioned, we have a 70% market share in the overall hatch segment. In the entry hatch segment, our market share is 90%. So the scope for increasing market share is a little less. However, the volumes should come in. So the thing is whether we can expand the market of this segment. And I believe it is possible. Because as I just explained, the basic economic logic about Indian demography and the requirement for transportation, and as the economy bounces back, and it is bouncing back, we would expect a lot of demand in this segment as well. And with this K10 option, you are actually given another good option to the consumer. By the way, Alto last year sold more vehicles than any SUV in the industry. Yeah. So the last year Alto sale was about 146,000. That's more than any SUV sale in the industry. So it's a good, important segment, and we expect it to grow more.
So what are the bookings that you've received for this vehicle as far as bookings are concerned, and how are you planning to channelize the availability of this vehicle? Because you would definitely expect that the festive season would be a good buyer for this vehicle. How are you managing with the backlog of the bookings for this vehicle in particular? And how about the other things, sir?
Yeah, so we are getting, as I just mentioned, about 200 cars booking for this Alto every day. We just started about four days back, the booking, just before the holiday period. We expect the bookings to go up now. Regarding the availability during the festive season, in view of the large pending orders that we have, the pending orders are actually model-wise quite different. So waiting periods across different models are different. For example, for our Ertiga, it is much larger, XL6, the CNG models, etc. The waiting period is a little more. So our endeavor would be to make production going forward up to the festive season and beyond, to try to make our production in accordance with the underlying demand pattern that we are observing in our pending bookings. So therefore, we do hope to make this production higher according to the demand and try to deliver as many vehicles as possible.
Crude oil prices have cooled down and commodity prices have also cooled down. So do you think there is a room for Maruti Suzuki to not increase prices and rather give more relief, discounts, or more strategic investment incentives to the consumers?
So actually the incentive to the consumer in terms of sales promotion is basically a equation of supply and the gap between supply and demand. I would expect not very high sales promotion levels because the demand, because it's reflected in the pending bookings, is higher than the supply. For some models, it's possible, of course, where the supply could be more than the demand. But otherwise, I would expect a muted sales discounts in this season. That's one. Second, on your question of the other question about whether the commodity price is cooling off and is there a possibility of giving relief on the price front? The answer to my mind, although we keep on examining the price situation and the cost situation almost on a daily basis, I think the commodity price is still high, even though there has been some cooling off. If you compare the commodity prices with what it was 2 years back, then the commodity price is still very high. I give you an example of steel. It was 37 rupee per kg. It went up to 84. It's still around that 65, 68 rupees a kg. So it's still very high when you compare it with 2 years back. And the last 2 years, we have increased prices, but not as much as what has been the increase in the commodity price.
In a sign of the post-COVID world of travel that we live in, if you apply for a tourist visa to the US today, you may have to wait nearly 2 years to get it unless you find ways to jump the queue. And it's not only the case with American visas. As we show you in this report, we prepared for a long visa wait for even other popular overseas destinations.
We first reported on the mad rush 2 months ago. Revenge travel by lakhs of Indians cooped up in their home due to COVID-19 pandemic. Looking for a chance to break free and travel overseas. The rush meant 4 to 5 month waiting period for visa applicants looking now to travel to the United States of America. An appalling wait, we thought then. But it was nothing compared to what tourists have to undergo now. The US State Department website shows a wait of 582 calendar days for those applying for a B1, B2 visa, implying an appointment on 22nd March 2024. For those looking for a student visa at the Delhi consulate, the wait is 471 days. At the Mumbai consulate, the earliest appointment for tourist visas is available only on 17th January 2024. However, the wait for study visa is just 10 days. There is an option of expedited visas, but it is only available for emergency medical care, deaths, appearances in a US court, and or for students with a recognized degree course beginning in 60 days. It is not only the US visas which are hard to come by. With Indian tourists looking for the path of least resistance, the most popular overseas destination have seen a massive surge in visa waiting period. The wait time for a Canadian tourist visa is 158 days and for a study visa is 84 days. For a British visitor visa, you'll have to wait at least the next 50 days. In fact, there has been such an overwhelming number of cases where tourists have planned their holidays but have been unable to get a visa that the British High Commissioner to India had to issue a video advisory.
We are training more people and we are keeping open the priority visa service, which many of you use. You can help us by making sure you have the paperwork right, and my advice is don't commit to your air tickets until you've got your visa, to be on the safe side. We want to see an unprecedented number of Indian students coming to the UK this year, and we will do everything we can to make sure that you get your visa on time.
There are options for those looking for a quick break without the hassle of a long wait for the visa. Those with the blue Indian passport can travel without a visa to popular destinations like Hong Kong, Maldives, Mauritius, and several Caribbean countries like Barbados, Dominica, Grenada, and Trinidad and Tobago. Visa on arrival is available for those headed to several countries as well, including Thailand, Seychelles, Qatar, Madagascar, Fiji, and Indonesia.
While the embassies and the consulates are saying that they are doing their best to handle the Great Indian Rush, but it looks like there is little possibility for the work to speed up in the next coming months. The only option for those who are looking at a new visa is to put their plans on hold, at least for the next coming months. With camera person Manisha, this is Aishwarya Paliwal reporting for Business Today.
Let's head across to Ashwini Kakkar, Managing Partner, InVenture Partners, to understand the situation. Ashwini, what's happening with this kind of wait time, 2 years to even get an in-person appointment?
Yes, there are very long delays for the US, for the UK, for the European Union, and for Canada. And for all these countries, I think there are multiple issues that are clouding the whole problem. The first issue is, of course, the huge increase in demand. Demand is back at almost 2019 levels. There's been a lot of pent-up demand for travel, and people are really struggling to get their visas in time to be able to travel. Yeah. So this is really the first big issue. On the other hand, if you look at the embassies themselves, because of COVID, they had sent back a lot of their staff to the home countries. And now they are facing a huge shortage of visa staff who can take care of these issues on a daily basis. And if you combine that with the protocols, which have also become much stricter, I think we really have a major issue on our hands, I guess.
So, Ashwini, what's the solution here? I mean, are travelers going to have to put up with this? Have you ever seen anything like this before? Given the kind of wait times, the kind of price hikes that we're also seeing across the board?
Yeah, the community that is suffering the most is the students, because obviously each student averagely pays about $100,000 US, whether they go to study in the United States or the United Kingdom or some other countries like Canada and Australia. Now, there may be some variations in that number, but I think it's wise to take this ballpark number. And if you consider that there are about 200,000 Indian students in the United States and 100,000 or more than 100,000 each in United Kingdom, in Australia, in Canada, and so on. And, in spite of wanting to pay these kind of monies to study in those countries, they're not able to get a visa. And I think that's a crying shame. Now, clearly, the visa costs have also gone up. I mean, the visa costs for going to the United States can be about the 25,000 rupee mark. But for the United Kingdom, these can be as high as 1,20,000 per student. Wow. So if you take a 10-year visa, or if you do other things and so on and so forth, or a tourist visa of that kind, then these costs are also not insignificant. But in spite of wanting to pay these kind of monies, both for the education and for the visas, I mean, if you're not able to get an appointment or not able to get a visa for 4 months, 6 months, and in some cases even a year and a half, I think it's an untenable situation.
All right, Ashwini, thanks so much for your time and for really addressing some of the root causes of the current spike that we're seeing in prices, as well as the much delayed visa appointment time. We're going to take a very quick break on Business Today. Back with more in just a moment.
In a move that's likely to further anger China, a bipartisan delegation of Japanese lawmakers are now all set to visit Taiwan. And this visit comes weeks after the visit of US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the recent visit of a bipartisan delegation of US lawmakers, both Democrats and Republicans. What's the message here? Whether it's the United States in the West or Japan in the East, democracies are standing with a democratically elected government in the Republic of China or Taiwan. And China clearly unlikely to be all too pleased with these developments. After Nancy Pelosi's visit, China announced a series of military drills and exercises around Taiwan Straits, in a way blockading Taiwan. But then another delegation came and China intensified those exercises. Now, when a Japanese delegation comes, will China further escalate these exercises? And that's the apprehension. The democratic world appears to be pushing back against an expansionist force. There is also a massive air power exercise that's being carried out in Australia. This is called Exercise Pitch Black. 100 fighter jets and other aircraft are likely to participate in this exercise starting in a couple of days.
Welcome back. Prior to the start of the revered festive season in India, the air passenger traffic dropped by 7.7% in July. Domestic airlines carried just 97.05 lakh passengers in July versus 1.05 crore who travelled in June. Holding a lion's share, of course, Indigo's market share continued to rise, followed by Vistara, Air India and Go First. The passenger load factor, PLF, which assesses how efficiently a transport provider fills seats and generates fare revenue, fell for Indigo, for AirAsia and Go First in July compared to the previous month. Vistara and SpiceJet, on the other hand, saw an uptick in PLF in July versus June. Despite the recent downturn and the volatility in the cryptocurrency markets, big tech companies like Google, Samsung, Microsoft and others have invested a whopping $6 billion in crypto projects since September 21. Let's head across to our crypto reporter, Akanksha Chaturvedi, to understand why these major corporations are bullish on crypto despite the uncertainty.
That's right. Despite the negative sentiments of the crypto markets of late, big tech companies like Google, Samsung, Amazon, etc. have invested $6 billion in crypto companies since the beginning of September 2021. And there are three major reasons driving this investment frenzy. Number one is the early movers advantage. All these big tech companies are trying to get an early movers advantage in this emerging technological avenue. By ensuring that they invest in small-scale startups in the crypto world, they are ensuring their piece of the Web3 economy. Number two is to adjust to customer demands. Users and customers are not just using cryptocurrencies as a financial instrument, but also as the enabler of the decentralized internet. And these big tech companies do not want to miss out on this. And number three is the real-world applications of different cryptocurrencies. When it comes to blockchain and cryptocurrencies, they have applications out of the financial world as well. This includes supply chain management, identity management, as well as polling. And all these big tech companies want a part of this as well. And hence they have amped up their investments in blockchain and crypto projects.
That's where we leave it on the show tonight. Thanks so much for watching.
Pour les entrepôts de préparation de commandes, donc typiquement un de nos clients est Cdiscount. Si vous passez une commande chez Cdiscount, avant c'est des gens qui dans un entrepôt essayaient de retrouver le téléphone et la coque de téléphone que vous aviez commandé, qui pouvaient faire jusqu'à 15 km par jour dans des entrepôts immenses.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices.
Oh, sorry.